Hi everyone. I'm so thankful to be here at the end of the semester and getting you this reflection video. It's been a really great semester. I've learned a whole lot. Just a quick comment on Katie's. Actually, Courtney's was posted there, but I wasn't able to access it, so I will comment on Katie's. Katie, I really appreciated how you worded in there how we need to be, this isn't how you said it, but respectful of the stories that we are told, and as researchers that we have a job in the retelling of a story to not impart our own beliefs and our own thoughts and to let the story tell itself. It isn't how you worded it, but I really appreciated the language you used. I just thought it was a really great reminder, and actually something that seems to be a repeating theme for me in this class this whole semester. And seems like everyone who's posting a video is talking about trying not to impart our own beliefs and our own thoughts into the stories that we are hearing, which is something that I was challenged with as well throughout this semester. So thank you for that, Katie. The two stories that I liked the most, or I think struck with me the most, the first one was I Didn't Do Anything Important by Ryan. I think it was in week 5 or week 6. It was about the women who had volunteered during World War I, and as they were telling their histories and their stories, so many of them seemed to say that their story wasn't important or that they didn't do anything important. But the author pointed out if they really felt that way, they probably would not have volunteered for the oral history project. So breaking that down a little bit, I think one of the things that really struck out to me in that article was where they really focused in on the silence in some of the stories. There were 2 women who talked about conversations they had with just one of their parents and how difficult those conversations were, but they did not talk about the conversation with their other parent, and how that silence can be a pattern. And the quote that really struck out to me is how silence can be a pattern of power and control. So the story not told, why is it not being told? And within the larger context, what does it mean? If you were looking at some of the research and the data and the history around that story, what is missing and why is it missing? I just thought that was fascinating and something to really be aware of, to really dive into those silences. I just really appreciated that. And the other one I really liked, just because I thought it was so fascinating, was the one about the slave, the last slave. Excuse me, I think it was in week 7, by Zora Neale Hurston. She actually conducted the interview in 1931 and couldn't get it published. They wanted her to change the dialect to something that was more easily understandable. And kudos to her for hanging on to what she knew is more valid and appropriate. And I'm so thankful that the story was retold in the dialect and the language. Was a little bit, took a little bit more to understand, but I think it would have subtracted so much from the actual story if you would have changed the language. Fascinating story. Just resonated with me. We're not too many generations past this story, and how so much of it is still relevant today and still playing out in our landscape and issues that we're dealing with. So just really, really found that fascinating. As far as the class, I learned a whole lot. This class was really different than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be just a research paper, which it was, but a very different research paper than anything I've done before. I think I'm finding out more as I'm writing the final paper about how I wished I would have asked some different questions, or what I thought were open-end questions, but they still geared towards something that I think I was trying to prove in the back of my mind. And so I guess some reflection on how to be more careful in the questions I ask is something that's been something I've been thinking about as I've been writing. Something else that I've been thinking about too, a couple of years ago, I got invited to a friend's home during the summer, his family was celebrating his grandparents' 100th anniversary of homesteading on their family farm, which they still farm on today. And they had it was a big family reunion in celebration of this. And during the celebration, he played a tape. He's now probably in his mid 60s. And he played a tape from when he was a teenager. He had got out a tape recorder one day and recorded his grandmother. And she ended up passing away like 3 years after he had done this recording. And it was about what was her life like when she moved here. And she had a baby on the way here. And she talked about that and just how hard it was. But as a neutral observer to hearing that story, there were generations there that had never met this woman. And so they were hearing her voice for the first time and hearing parts of her story that they weren't aware of. And then there were also her grown children who were in their 80s now and grandchildren who were in their 50s and 60s who had not heard her voice in 30 to 40 years. And just how powerful it was to hear her voice again and be reminded of her story. And that's just really been on my mind the last couple of weeks about if you would take what he had done there and do what we have done this semester and break down the Homestead Act and how it changed the landscaping and how hard it was for those families and what it meant for them with all of the other analysis and data and historical context that's been done, what her story is on a much broader picture. So it's just, this class has just had me thinking about that and how all of our stories, like hers, I don't think she probably thought she'd done anything important. But if you look at it in a much broader picture, it really paints a picture for all of us to learn something from. So it's been a great class. Thank you, Amanda, for your patience. It's been a really busy semester, so thank you for your flexibility and wishing all of my classmates out there a really great weekend. I hope your paper gets done smoothly and that you all have a great summer. Thanks so much.